The World Baseball Classic already feels stronger in 2026 than it did in 2023. You can feel it in the star power and the surprise runs, and you can feel it in the way that the bracket already feels alive. So now the question's simple. What would make this tournament even better next time? Because the WBC already has a lot going for it. This year became the first that the World Baseball Classic had all four reigning MLB MVP and Cy Young Award winners in the tournament. Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Paul Skeens, Tarik Skubal. It's a pretty big deal. It raises the baseline for the whole event before the games even start. And that leads to the first thing the WBC needs if it wants to keep getting stronger. It needs the stars to keep showing up. It's the fastest way to raise the floor of the tournament. When Ohtani is in, it feels bigger. When Judge is cranking home runs, it feels bigger. When top players say yes, the event instantly carries more weight. But the next step is not just getting the stars in, it's keeping more of them in. And that's still one of the biggest weak points. Even in this tournament, Team USA had to adjust its pitching staff during the event. Tarik Skubal, Michael Wacha, and Wyan Yarbrough all came off the roster as workloads managed around the MLB season. It's a reminder that the WBC is stronger than it used to be, but it's not fully built up yet. If the tournament wants to become even bigger, it needs more full buy-in from the top of the sport, especially on the pitching side. The second thing it needs is more believable contenders. Not just famous countries, but real threats. In 2026, so far, we've seen a perfect example. Italy has been one of the best stories of the tournament. They went undefeated in group play, beating the US 8-6, beating Mexico 9-1, and they're advancing into the quarterfinals. It's exactly the kind of result that makes a tournament stronger. Because once more countries feel dangerous, the bracket gets better instantly. It stops feeling narrow, it stops feeling predictable, and more fan bases stay locked in and deeper in the event. Italy was also not scraping through with one weird upset. They kept scoring, they forced the whole tournament to take them seriously. That kind of run changes how people watch the whole event. And to be honest, that's just baseball. And it's a huge piece of this tournament's growth going forward. The WBC gets stronger when more teams look capable of making a real run. Another thing that helps is when the tournament feels truly global from top to bottom. Not just star-heavy, but global. That means powerhouse countries. But it also means stories that remind you how wide the sport really is. One of the best examples so far in the 2026 tournament came from Czech, where Andrei Satoria, an electrician by trade, held Japan scoreless. Japan, by the way, one of the best teams in the world with Shohei Ohtani, held Japan scoreless for 4 2/3 innings before the game finally opened up late. It's not the main story of the tournament, but it's the kind of detail that gives the WBC texture. It gives it its global moment, or its viral moment. It makes the event feel bigger than a collection of famous names. It makes it feel like the whole baseball world is actually in the room. The third thing the WBC needs stronger recurring matchups. Not just good games, games people remember from tournament to tournament. Japan against the United States is getting there, but the broader field matters too. If you keep getting deep runs from countries like Italy, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Canada, Korea, the tournament starts building more tension across all levels of the bracket. Canada this year is already a fresh entry into the quarterfinal story. And that's when the event gets stickier. Fans start coming back not just for baseball, but for unfinished business. And that's how major international tournaments grow. Then there is the presentation. The WBC has to keep being sold like a major international event, not just a baseball add-on, because the tournament already has the ingredients. It has national pride, it has known stars, it's starting to have a bunch of upsets, there's bracket tension building across the board, and the single game pressure is starting to add up. Matchups that feel different from anything in the regular season. That should be presented with more confidence every time. Because once fans start to expect that level of intensity from the WBC, the expectations overall will rise. And that is exactly where this tournament wants to be. So what would actually make the WBC stronger? I would say more stars committing, more stars staying through the full event and not pulling out for load management, more countries proving that they can be real contenders, and more repeat matchups that carry over from one tournament to the next. For example, Japan versus US. And I'd also say a stronger presentation around the event as a premier international stage, similar to what, the World Cup does and other like tournaments. The 2026 tournament has already shown that the base is there. The tournament feels deeper, it feels bigger, and it feels less like a novelty when you have names like Ohtani and Judge in the field, while a team like Italy can still flip the bracket right on its head. That is exactly what growth looks like. The WBC does not need to reinvent itself. It needs to keep strengthening the things that are already working. And if it does that, if it keeps the stars coming, keeps widening the field, and keeps making more countries feel like real threats, then the next step is very obvious. The World Baseball Classic will stop feeling like baseball's best international tournament and will start feeling like one of the sport's biggest events, period. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode or series on the WBC. We look forward to making more content like this in the future.